Well, today I'm going to tell you about the best job I ever had. And it's really, really quite unique or simple in a way. The best job I ever had is not having a job. If you don't quite understand that yet, I'll explain further. I had some jobs when I was in high school and when I was in college working on getting my architectural degree. But after I got my degree and went into business on my own, um, I never really had a job. I was, and as an architect, a client would come to me and give me an idea of what they wanted or needed architecturally, and then if they agreed and I agreed that we could come up with a good workable solution for them, then I would have what I called a commission to do their project. And the difference between a job and a commission is that in a job you typically have an upper level above you until you get to be the top dog in the business. But up until then, you've got managers and other mid-level people telling you how to do this and how to do that and what you're doing right and what you're not doing right. And in a commission, the client outlines in detail what their needs are, and you explore deeply with them their needs and how an architectural solution can improve their business. Then I'm in control then. I don't have a manager or boss above me. I'm taking the ideas and thoughts of the person who has, or business who has commissioned me to do an architectural design for them. So I'm the one who's really in control, and I began to formulate ideas and thoughts about how to resolve and better their business from what it presently is now, and how it's being restricted from by the present conditions that the business is in. And I refer to businesses because I basically did not do any residential work. I did 2 or 3 residential projects for friends, and that was a mistake because doing business with friends is not a really wonderful thing to do, or the results are biased by friendships and relationships that shouldn't be involved really. But that's a whole different situation, and I'm not going to digress on that. But what I was doing is researching what other similar businesses are doing, trying to ascertain what the future held and how these projected future changes would impact their business. in developing what I felt was a solution to their needs. So as I developed these ideas and got them on to paper, so to speak, so I could present them to the client to get their feedback. And in those days, the real means of conveying information to a client was basically on paper, with drawings and well, not with drawings. Be they three-dimensional drawings, two-dimensional drawings, or whatever. Just rough pencil sketches. They usually began as rough pencil sketches and became more and more refined as you talked with the client and got further input and feedback from the client. Because once you had an idea on paper, the client was then able to respond better to, in most cases, not all cases, but in most cases they could respond to their concept of how your idea on paper would translate into their business or environment or resolve their issues. So that's the real reason I didn't consider a client hiring me as a job. I considered it as a commission to help them resolve issues that they were experiencing and needed help with. So from that standpoint, I never really had a job. Woo! I'm so happy about that. Later on in life, when I quit or closed my business down, and let me back up just for a moment. My original practice was the traditional practice of architecture, and later I moved on to providing construction services as well. And my main, or how I based this, was if a client came to me with a situation they felt I could be a benefit to them, the services I would provide is I would design and build their project. Option number two, if they wanted to use another architect, that was fine with me. I would consider building their project, but I would not entertain at all just giving them architectural services and allow them to take the design or contract documents to another person to build or construct for them. Those were the three guiding principles of my business when I became involved with construction. In the late 90s, early 2000, I basically closed my business down for various reasons I won't get into now. But from there on, for about 10 years, I guess, I did consulting work with other architects and contractors and builders to help them resolve issues that were that they were experiencing in their particular business. Architecture and construction, like every business that I can think of, has been through some very, very uh, dynamic changes with the advent of computers and the ability to have a computer at your fingertips. Prior to that, my experience was these computers were giant machines. I say giant. They filled up a sizable room and had to be in a very tightly controlled environment and were very, very slow, really, uh, in resolving issues. But now that computers had moved to small desktop type machines that we could all use that effectively were much faster and more capable than these giant, what they referred to as big iron machines. Big iron meant just loaded big iron machines that were very difficult to work with unless you were really part of a team that spent hours manipulating these machines. Now you could do that with a mouse and a keyboard. So I was doing primarily consulting work with these businesses and trying to assist them in making the transition from the old days to the new days. And like many human endeavors, humans in general, in my opinion, are resistant to change. They just put their heels in the dirt and, well, we've always done it this way. Well, if you've always done it that way, that's your big problem. You need to find out new ways to do things. And that's always been how I was basically disruptive in my business, because being in a small little town to begin with, all the architects were rooted back to, well, that's the way we've always done it, and I started doing it totally different, and it just blew their minds. But I'm not going to digress into that either. So what I've always had in mind was to try and be on the front edge of what's going on. It's not easy to do, and especially trying to stay ahead of the curve, because the curve is changing so quickly and more quickly every day. I know now that as I'm speaking to you right now, it is extremely difficult for me to just keep my nose above water. And I'm not sure I'm doing that. There are many, many areas that I'm totally ill-equipped to handle and know about, because I don't have the time to spend learning all the new techniques and means of getting from A to B to C to D. So my ability to connect the dots is beginning to get rather antiquated. But time moves on and doesn't wait for me, and I'm glad it doesn't. Anyway, that's my take on how I worked and what my best job was. And well, I can tell you one thing, I have enjoyed my best job of not having a job. Makes me happy.